Another thing is all of the budgets are closing across the cities, so we're keeping kind of a good eye on those.
I will say that Boynton passed their final budget, I believe, and then Delray also passed their final budget.
Yeah.
So Boca's is next week.
Yeah. So as these are closing out, it is a little late in the game now to start nitpicking budgets.
Because by state law, they have to be closed by the end of September.
Correct.
They have to be submitted to the state.
So your call to your city or your county is kind of, your window has closed at this point.
You can still do it.
You can.
But
I'm just saying,
know,
if you
have realistic expectations.
Correct. So unless you find something very egregious.
Egregious.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. I shouldn't use big words. So unless you find something that is clearly like a problem and you bring it to a commissioner or city council's, the budget's closed. However, it's a great way to start diving into the budget that is planned. And remember, it's a budget. It's fake money till it's real.
Yep.
So, so it's just a budget. So we can kind of start, diving into all of these budgets and kind of start to nitpick them and things apart.
Yeah.
So if anybody really wants to make a change and reduce their budgets going forward and finding out what the redundancies are, what the fluffs are, what the extra contracts are, extra consultants, all of that kind of stuff, now is the time to get educated on the budget that's already passed and then start to do your due diligence and work and then start bringing it to the commissioners and to your city council.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is what I found. This is where you can do, and I hate to say it, but like your FOIA requests, all of that kind of stuff, that's when you can really start to kind of see where your money is going, because we have so much money that gets siphoned out. In Palm Beach County alone, I think our budget is $7.7 billion. And so just ad valorem taxes I think it's $1.7 billion. So
23% of the budget.
Yeah, so it's a very small number that we're actually paying for out of our taxes. And so you have to take into account what all of that other revenue and where it comes from and how it's accumulated through the budget. And so then it's counting on, and then at this time next year, if we're all educated and understanding, we then can make good fiscal changes,
right,
and educate the commission and the staff on things, because you have to also understand Palm Beach County, and I'm sure probably Broward is too, is understaffed. So
man, it sure don't seem that way from the budget.
I know. I know.
But, the budget is projected for what they want to spend for employees.
Correct. But that's what's in the budget. Actuals, they could be understaffed.
So they are understaffed. So they might have the budget. Okay, we have $60,000 for this position,
right?
Correct.
Budgeted. But they don't actually pay that position because they don't have someone
filled
to pay the position.
But so they're actively advertising for that position.
Right. But my point is it seems like it because the money is there to pay a full staff, but it's not. It's just not being spent to pay the full staff.
Right. So. And that's where I think a lot of people get a little confused, is that a budget is just a projection. It is not actual dollars spent until it's finalized.
And that's why you have to look at the comprehensive annual financial report.
Yes.
Which typically they finish, I know like in Lighthouse Point, they present that mid-spring, late spring.
Probably when they're having a lot of their, like, I know like Boca has their plan, what's it called? Strategy planning meetings where they look at all of the things that have happened. And I think that's where they present that kind of stuff. I mean, Brian can correct me if I'm wrong for Boca, but I think that's where that sounds about right.
Yeah. So again, I just want to point out, this is a good opportunity to start looking at those projections and bringing things to attention that may be a little off or a little confusing or that you want clarity on, and then you can ask for your FOIA requests and basically get the information to make sure, because as you step into things, as you look at things, it's like, we did the math on something the other day. It was like $10 million for
homeless. What 3 contracts for homeless shelters.
Right.
In Boca?
No,
Palm
Beach
County. And so then it's like, but if you figured out how many people it was $22 a day, basically, per person, per homeless person. So it's like, yes, it's a huge number, but yet when it comes down to it, like $20 for a homeless person to be able to have shelter and food,
It's just really sad that there's that many homeless people in our community,
in our very wealthy community.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, and that's the thing. And so
Go
so
ahead.
I was going to say, so like if you are someone who wants to look into things and research things, there is a whole host of options to do that. Not just the budgets, but you can take a county or a city. I have an agenda here for the city of Boca, and there are on the consent agenda. There is we're authorizing this amount of money for this contract and this bid, and this is a sealed bid, $8.4 million for Florida design contractors for nanofiltration unit and deglassifier upgrades. So my point, like in saying that is to look at what these companies are, and then also looking at what a lot of the nonprofits that we donate to. So I know like I was at several city council and commission meetings in the last couple of weeks, and all of them have nonprofit lists that each of the city commissioners or council members submit that they want the city's donation money, which is your tax dollars, to go towards XYZ nonprofits. And those are the ones that are on the approved city list to donate to them. We don't know. I don't know.
I would prefer to make those donations
myself with my money. I'd prefer to get more of my tax dollars back and make the donations myself. So so if someone wants to look into something, you can get those are all public records. Find out who they are. Find out who the CEO is. Find out what their operating budget is. Is the CEO making a 6-figure salary, and how many people are they actually helping, or animals, or whatever it may be?
Oh shoot, what's the name of that? There's a website where you can look up nonprofits and their filings.
Ooh.
GuideStar?
I've never heard of this.
Hold on. I think it's GuideStar.
You're right, there is.
And you can look. I mean, they're required.
They have to give financials.
Right. So my point in saying that is when not just nonprofits that are on the nonprofit list, but even like we said with the homeless situation, the homeless contracts.
Yeah.
Taking the time to see, okay, who runs these up? What's the one that you mentioned that was like, it was a couple weeks ago in the budget.
Ryan White Foundation.
The Ryan White Foundation.
Oh, Ryan White was the kid that died of AIDS.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, foundations might be doing great work, but we need to know that. It'd be good for us to know how much are they actually helping people? What amount of money, again, what are their operating costs? What are the C-level people making in the organization? Because those are our tax dollars. And if we don't look into those things, and by we I mean you helping us, because we at this table are very busy.
Well,
but
I'm gonna kind of go off the chain here for a second, but
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna bring it back.
Sorry, Stu, that was loud.
There's a Ukrainian company called Heart of Love.
I thought you were going to say Burisma.
No. There's a Ukrainian company called Heart of Love. Well, coming to find out, there's things coming out that they're actually child and organ harvesting. But it sounds so good. Heart of Love, right?
Yeah, until you actually think about what they're harvesting.
Exactly. So many, and I'm just using that as an example because it's so extreme.
Yeah.
Is the fact that, it sounds good. They have a good website.
And some of them might be great.
Many of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, we go to great foundations and great, nonprofits that do really good work and that are literally struggling and paint's peeling off the walls and they are using every dime in order to help the people that they are saying that they are meant to help. So there are really good organizations out there, but it's also there's some that get kind of pushed through
and they get these big monies, and then it's very hard for a county commissioner or a city council member to then say, hey, I have a question about this because I don't know, because then all of a sudden the headlines is this county commissioner or city council members defunding the homeless or defunding this. But if we can come to that person, that council member or that commissioner, and say, hey, this is what we found, they can say, oh, okay, so I think we should look into this because here are my receipts.
And then that's when we have the inspector general.
Exactly. And so there's a process. There's a process, but we need help to do that. So just speaking for Jessica and I, we're both staff for Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward has a very, very extensive schedule, which we will get to hear about when she comes on our episode in November. So mark your calendars. And there's just not enough time for that to happen from there. It has to come from you all, from residents, from citizens who are concerned about what's happening with their money. And so when that comes to us, we can get it to the commissioner, we can get it to other commissioners, city council members, and then we can actually start to see where we can peel back some of these things. So I think one of the whole points of us being in government and being in what we're doing is to be able to peel that back and say, okay, here we go. Let's dig in.
This all went off the rails a long time because it's like,
yes, this is a very big apparatus.
Right. And just because we were talking about homeless, I'll stick with it there. How much federal money goes to homelessness?
Yeah.
How much state money goes to homelessness? How much county money goes to homelessness? How much city money goes to homelessness? But there's still homeless on the corner that are asking for the $20. You know, there comes a point where we have to go, what is our responsibility to help those in need, and to how many people who make themselves in need because they don't want the help, but they want what we are offering.
And then we
to
still
them.
keep throwing dollars at it from our tax dollars. So if I want to go, I don't have the money now, like in theory, to go to the guy on the street corner and give him the $20 where I know he will actually go buy food with it, versus giving it, it's because it's coming out of my pocket to go to who knows what type of organization.
And then even to make it worse, when you are a large funded county like Palm Beach, we do live in paradise. We do have a lot of money here. That's for sure. So it's like, if you're getting federal, state, local money for homelessness, and then it's like it almost attracts them here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, I remember when I lived in the city of Fort Lauderdale, we had a police officer, a city of Fort Lauderdale cop, come to one of our civic association meetings. Fort Lauderdale has a ton of civic associations, which are way better than HOAs. But he said that in the Northeast, cops in the Northeast would literally put their homeless, they would buy them a bus ticket one way to Florida to make them not their problem, in the winter, and they would never come back. So
sounds about right.
We are inheriting the homeless problem from other parts of the country in addition to our own homeless problem. And it has always been that way because we have good weather down here.
Right.
It's nice and warm.
Right. And we're very charitable.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the thing. Like, we don't want anybody to suffer. Nobody wants anybody to suffer. Nobody wants anybody to be in homelessness. But sometimes it is a choice.
It is.
And so it's like, at what point does our responsibility end and their personal responsibility begin?
And at what point does our tax dollars, at what point do we say we don't have the money?
So
we
it's
don't
like,
have the funding. Like, we
so
can't just keep
your
throwing
money is going to homelessness that isn't going to your electric bill, that it's not going to your personal needs, that if you were given a choice, you may not donate to that at this time because you need to take care of yourself, where it's kind of getting extracted from you.
Taxation is theft. It's the bottom line.